I wonder if this is, or if you're regarding this as a spiritual preparation for the resurrection movie you're about to embark on.
I feel like I'm being stripped down and prepared for something else. Now that's maybe very personal, but I feel like the Almighty's preparing me to do something big.
I'm Raymond Arroyo. Welcome to Arroyo Grande. I'm so glad you're here. This is our inaugural voyage into the wild currents of this culture. My conversation with Mel Gibson is straight ahead, and it's both moving and insightful. He tells us about how he's recovering from the loss of his home in the LA fires, and later, the backstory of Braveheart, which I'd never heard before. Mel takes us behind the scenes also of his latest project, Flight Risk. Okay, before we dive in, I thought I should give you a little itinerary of what I hope this applaudcast means to you. I hate the term podcast. I use applaudcast because when it's over, I want you to applaud. I'm too broad for a podcast. We're not chickpeas and we're not coffee. Call it what you want, as long as you subscribe to Arroyo Grande and keep checking in with us. As most of you know, I've written a string of New York Times bestsellers for adults and kids, some adults who act like kids. I've been on TV for decades, and I started in kindergarten. Yes, I did. But this is a new adventure for me. It's more direct, not hemmed in by time limitations or much else. On each Arroyo Grande show, I'm going to navigate and analyze the culture with you. We'll hit lifestyle trends and manners, or lack thereof, the arts, faith, pop culture, comparing what is to what went before, and sharing what it all means. We'll celebrate the best in the culture while lampooning the rest. And along the way, we're going to talk about, and to, some incredible people, about their work, their lives, their passions, and unearth practical advice and life lessons and examples that we can use in our daily lives. And hopefully, we'll have a few laughs along the way. The Arroyo Grande in the title, by the way, does not refer to Big Ray. It's the grand flowing waters of life that I'm interested in exploring. At the end of this episode, I'll tell you why we're doing all of this. That's called a cliffhanger, so hang with us. But I'm going to start this and every episode with what I call a free flow. Here goes. What happened to going to the movies? Oh, I know you're sitting home now, you're watching Hulu and Netflix, but admit it wasn't going to the theater fun. I would argue it's also important to us as a people. We forget how long we've been watching images in the dark. The first Nickelodeons were introduced in 1905, where moving images could be viewed. Soon projectors gave way to incredible movie making. Then the talkies, and by 1933, drive-ins were introduced. Like sports, movies gave all Americans and the world a way to relax and escape reality together. That all came to a screeching halt in 2020 when COVID hit. A recent Harris poll found that 2 in 3 people prefer to watch movies at home now. Are they watching what I'm watching? Big stars in kind of pathetic half-baked vehicles? Admit it. Charlize Theron in a forgettable spy thriller is not exactly Mission Impossible. And is Eddie Murphy doing another reboot of a really great film this week? It all feels disposable. And because we aren't watching it together, it is disposable. It's like gum. It might taste good for a few minutes, but you won't share it with your neighbor, and you'll never discuss it tomorrow with your coworkers. We just aren't going to movie theaters that often, and that's bad for us, and it's bad for our kids. According to Advan, in 2024, attendance at the Cineplex is still 33% below 2019 pre-COVID levels. Look, I get it. I've spoken to studio heads who say we've not had enough consistent, high-quality product, which broke the habit of movie-going. People still want to be entertained, but they feel they can do it at home or in their jammies or boxers. The studios have offered up mostly franchise reboots, Jurassic Park, Deadpool, Star Wars, or whatever live-action remake mess Disney is releasing this week. A little incidental question here. How did CGI animation become live action? I'm asking for a friend, Pinocchio. No wonder audiences are staying home. Only Oppenheimer broke through a non-franchise flick a few years ago. And Barbie, but she was kind of an established franchise. Come on, every girl had one. Here's why it matters. Because when we come together with strangers and we sit in the dark and enter the dreamland of the filmmaker's imagination, something incredible happens. Up there, Nicole Kidman even looks younger. Heartbreak feels good in a place like this, but not when you can't keep the doors open or when the guy next to you forgot to shower. There's a crucial cultural reason that we should go to the movies as a group. When you're in that darkened theater, you're sharing a human experience with others. It's not some isolated thing on your phone via earbuds, but a shared moment as one. It's almost sacred when it works. I would argue, like sporting events, we need these times together. When you're being entertained as one, it's easier to live together as one outside the theater. Movies can be, and were for decades, a source of cultural unity. We shared the same references. We loved and hated the same characters. Sam Spade and Indiana Jones and Dorothy Gale, Rhett Butler, Fredo Corleone. We all knew these characters. It's hard to come up with any contemporary examples with that kind of ubiquity, Wolverine aside. To try to lure people in, theater owners have now gone from Technicolor to 3D to IMAX to those damn shaking seats that make you want to hurl your snow caps all over the row in front of you. Now they brought booze and lazy boys in. That'll only lull the audience to sleep and make them feel they could replicate the experience at home, in loungewear or underwear. To bring back moviegoing, Hollywood has to improve their product, make films, rides we all want to go on together. It's important for society and the civility of our kids to develop the habit of coming together and learning as a group and being entertained at the same time. If we want to grow as a people, and if theater owners want to fill their chairs, they should heed the words of that great oracle, Nicole Kidman, who once said, "We make movies better." We'll see. And that's a wrap. Okay, let's go into the deep. Here's a man who's been making movies better for 40 years. He's an Academy Award-winning director for his Braveheart, and if there were any justice in the world, he would have won Oscars for The Passion of the Christ and Apocalypto as well. I sat down with Mel Gibson 20 years ago on the set of The Passion, which I can't believe, and conducted the first interview about that landmark film. Now, you're going to hear about his latest movie, a thriller called Flight Risk. It's an interview we recorded at his house, which is coming up. But when these horrible fires struck LA in January of 2025 and he lost his home, I wanted to see how he was doing and talk to him about the recovery. Mel Gibson joins me now. Mel, thank you for being here. Mel, what did you think when you drove up to the beautiful room people will see in just a moment where we conducted this interview, when you saw your neighborhood, when you saw your entire community? What did you imagine or think at that time?
Well, first, I thought it was just, oh, gee, bad luck, tragedy. But then I think I came to realize that it was monumental mismanagement by our elected officials. And that's the nicest thing you can say about it.
Mm. Yeah, I've been listening to your governor, Gavin Newsom, and he's promising LA 2.0, a reimagined Los Angeles. He even says he has a Marshall Plan. Is that what you and your neighbors want right now?
Well, as a citizen here, Newsom and Bass, they want us to trust them to reimagine the city, our city, in how they think it should be. And look what they've done so far to this town, you got nothing but rampant crime, acute homelessness, high taxes, mismanagement of water, firefighters, defunding the department, and we're supposed to trust them with millions of dollars to sort of remake where we live. It's our city. It's the city of the people. And they have another plan. And, he's saying, build back better. This concept that's got whiskers on it. Everybody says it. And have you ever seen government build back better? There's still people from the Woolsey Fire living in trailers and stuff, okay? When have you seen the government build back better?
Very
It's
rarely.
just social engineering, environmental regulation, and spending. That's the last thing any of us who've been burned out need, are a bunch of bureaucrats telling us how to rebuild our communities. I just think it's at the very least, it's insensitive.
Yeah, well, I mean,
But
and with the water challenges, I mean, just focusing on the water, Mel, the reservoir that was left empty, which is the second largest in your community, in all
yeah,
of the state, that alone it raises such intense questions, and it boggles the mind that now you have these people saying, but we should be entrusted with rebuilding the future. You couldn't hold on to the present.
no, they've bungled it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are those who say, well, was it intentional? Do they need to rebuild the Olympic Village and clear, like the cattle barons clearing off land? Or, I won't go that far.
Yeah.
But it certainly was, the perfect storm of events, with no water, defunded fire department, not enough personnel, and the second largest reservoir in the state, to take care of the communities of the Palisades, Malibu, L.A. County. They should have had a backup plan, and they knew it was coming, and they had other places where they could pump the water from and actually fill that to be ready. They knew it was coming.
Yeah.
So.
Well, look, as you know, I lost my house in Katrina. Our family lost our house, and it was gutting, and it was awful. But, I came to see it as a great blessing in my life, in time. I was struck this week, you did an interview, and you said, in passing, you see this loss of your home as a purification. How so?
Well, it was an odd mixture of sadness and kind of a weird realization and blessing, I think, because I thought, they're just things. I mean, I'm going to miss some stuff. There was valuable stuff. There was personal stuff that just breaks my heart, But, I feel like I'm being stripped down and prepared for something else. Now, that's maybe very personal, but I feel like the Almighty's preparing me to do something big.
Well, I have to say, when I heard that, I thought, I wonder if this is, or if you're regarding this as a spiritual preparation for the resurrection movie you're about to embark on.
Yeah, I think that's kind of it. It's like, hey, look, God gives, God takes. We come in with nothing. That's the same way we go out, And here's the deal. You'll always be okay. If you seek first the kingdom of God, you'll always be okay. You'll get what you need. Look at the flowers of the field. Look at the birds of the air. They get fed. They get clothed. I mean, it's Matthew, I think. But that was one of my dad's favorite passages. He said, stop worrying about stuff, about money, about stuff. So, that's, I think he put that in my head when I was very young, and it stayed, and I believe it,
Yeah.
So we'll be all right.
How has your faith gotten you through this, Mel? I mean, I know you're a man of faith. I know you practice your faith. Devotions, I mean, it's always a traumatic moment because people don't understand unless you've gone through this. The geography of your life, the daily visuals of your life are suddenly gone. It is, to me, that was worse than losing the house, Mel, losing the coffee shop, losing the friends, losing the icons of my childhood that I remembered, that I reveled in every day.
Yeah, it's kind of an opportunity to recreate your path. I mean, it's you gotta look at the upside of this. I mean, there's plenty of downside, and but honestly, I see it as kind of a blessing and a purification. So, you lose. Yeah, it's going to be murder getting the insurance. I mean, everybody's reneging, and it's going to be a real cluster buster.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's all ahead. I got a lot of faith.
Yeah.
Not in our elected officials, no. Not much
but it
faith
makes you
in them.
free. But personally, it frees you in some ways from the things you've been carrying around for even the things you thought you needed. You realize you don't need a whole lot to survive and do the work.
I'll tell you a funny story. I mean, it's cold at the moment where I'm at, and it's like this guy calls me up. He's a friend of mine. He says, "Hey, you got a warm coat?" And I said, "No." Because, I'm sorry, I'm dressed like Zelensky, but not by choice. But he said, "You got a warm coat?" And I'm like, "No, I don't have a warm coat." And he said, "I got one for you." And I feel kind of like, oh, gee, that's nice of you. I said, Is it going to fit me? You're 6 feet 3 inches tall. And he said, no problem. It's going to fit you because you gave it to me during the Woolsey fire. And
Oh
now I'm
my
giving it back.
gosh. Wow.
And
Full
I said, you
circle, Mel.
cheapskate, you cheapskate mother hugger, you know?
Paying it forward, indeed. Look,
Yeah.
and there's something there's something else here I don't want to leave on the table. You said to Joe Rogan that the timing of the Passion sequel, the resurrection of the Christ, 20 years later is perfect. Why? Why do you think it's perfect now, Mel?
Well, I think, the cares and the weeds and the flower, they've all grown up around us in the last 20 years to a degree where I think society is kind of devolving somehow. And I think we need a reminder of the most basic things and the things that forms our civilization. And I think, as we watch it kind of, the civilization being threatened
Yeah.
by the various earmarks that, are precursors of the loss of any civilization. So I believe it's not in my timing. I thought, man, it's too late. It's like 20 years. I mean, wow, Jim's got wrinkles. What am I going to do? And
And along
but I'm
came
like,
CGI. Thank goodness.
yeah, you can do something. Put a little Vaseline on the lens. Say, Jim, turn around. No. He actually, I got to say, 20 years is not dented. Jim looks great still, so it's
Yeah, he does.
fantastic. I don't look so good, but Jim does.
Oh, come on.
But so I thought it was like 20 years, maybe a bit too late. But I think now it's perfect because, and and I've had all these things taken, and it sort of frees me up to not worry about that stuff and just move ahead and do what I'm being called to do, and I'm being called to do it.
Wow.
So I don't even know why it's the right time, but I think it is.
No, it certainly
I just
feels like it
instinctively
is.
feel that.
Yeah,
Pardon?
it's been a long time coming. I know you've been toying with it and fighting with it and wrestling with it for all of these 20 years.
Oh yeah, no. It's a big subject and very complex, and it's taken all those years to contemplate it, think about it, and distill it with the help of two writers, and so it's a puzzle. But I think I found a way in.
Yeah. What are you hearing from your neighbors, Mel? Going back to this tragedy you all find yourselves in the midst of, do they want to move on? Do they want to stay and rebuild the community in Malibu? What are you hearing?
Well, a lot of people's spirits are broken, because it happened and then it happened again. And then you realize that, your elected leaders are not really, you don't trust them.
Yeah.
And is it going to happen again? And a lot of people just want to move on. I mean, people were already moving out of the state in droves.
Yeah.
Droves. They go to Texas, they go to Idaho, they go to South Carolina and all these different places to get away from a political and a social climate developing here that they did not dig. And they wanted to go someplace where they felt like free Americans,
Yeah.
So I think they were already leaving in droves. And I think this is just people are just going to say, it's too hard. It's the too hard basket. We were hanging on, but,
Wow.
we got to go find something else. A lot of these middle-class families, they haven't got the resources to rebuild.
No,
And
they don't.
I mean, the insurance company, they all canceled their whole things beforehand. And I mean, it's just terrible.
It's awful.
They send drones around. Oh, you haven't got a railing on you haven't got a screen on your window. Sorry, we're canceling your insurance. It's that kind of, it's this crazy thing that's going on. Yeah. And then to have, no resources to fight this disaster was...
That goes on. I mean, the thing that struck me, Mel, unlike Katrina, which was a one and done, it was over in 24 hours. This thing has gone on, and even with the national attention, they don't seem to have marshaled the resources or the will or the organization to at least stop these fires and protect They're citizens.
No,
That's what I
but look at
find
the
most
chemical
outrageous.
spills in Ohio. Look at that stuff.
Yeah.
What did they do?
Mm.
Look at all these storms over on the East Coast now. I mean, what are they? It's just it's neglect, and then of course we're giving all our money to other people, and
Yeah.
and neglecting our own, and giving it to people illegals coming across the border and putting them up in hotels and giving them phones and spending billions, and
It's a lack of focus on the citizenry and the things that matter and the lasting infrastructure, which I certainly see in New Orleans and other places I travel. It's just crumbling. Look, there are thousands of people, Mel, in North Carolina, in Florida, now in LA, trying to recover from disasters and find home again. What has this experience taught you, and what would you offer them?
well, I think one has to depend on oneself and one's neighbors and one's family and one's friends and your community in order to and to band together and to make your voices heard, because it's clear and all over the country that our elected officials, I don't think they give a damn, because they're not really doing much. So it's up to us.
Yeah.
I think so. And it's and put your faith in God and kind of move forward.
And let him lead you.
And that's hard to do, man, when your ass is on fire.
Yeah. And and the neighborhood around
and the
you.
neighbors, I mean, the people I've seen, oh my God. Oh, this woman down the road, she's got two boys who are autistic, and she, they don't know what to do without their environment, and she's found a way to some special forces guys are doing really good services.
Wow.
And they're going around getting people places to live and doing really good things. So it's in the community like that, and our community needs to tell government what we need and what we want,
and demand it happen. Well, thank God for those
demand
people.
it, yeah.
And look, we're praying for you, your family, all those caught in the path of these fires, Mel. And we have much more on the other side of this. We're going to talk about your upcoming film, because I do think in the midst of tragedies like this, you need to find joy and you need to find opportunities to come together as a community. And your new film, Flight Risk, is a great way to do that.
Well, yeah, it's kind of fun. And it's entertainment. It's crazy. It's full of, thrills and spills, and it doesn't last too long. You don't have to.
No, it's a quick ride. It's a wild ride.
Yeah, you're not going to get a numb. You're not going to get a numb butt in the cinema from sitting there watching it, because you're in and out in 90 minutes, and it's fast and crazy, and hopefully, and I think it's pretty entertaining. So, hey, it's the best I can do with no time.
Well, look, you do a fantastic job. The film is fantastic, and we're going to talk about it on the other side of this. Thank you, Mel. God bless you, my friend. Before we continue our conversation with Mel Gibson, I wanted to tell you a little story about another landmark thriller which reached the screen thanks to Mickey Mouse, some bloodshed, and copious amounts of booze. And you won't believe how it ends. In 1962, Alfred Hitchcock began shooting his legendary film, The Birds, his take on the Daphne du Maurier story. But as you know, a key part of the story were those psychotic attacking birds. Hitch and Universal Studios decided to create mechanical birds to torture Tippi Hedren and the cast. But after spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, the birds looked ridiculous. They just didn't look real. So they hired animal trainer Ray Berwick to wrangle live birds. Ravens and seagulls, crows and sparrows were collected. But they were unpredictable, and they did not take direction well. The crew and actors endured repeated bird attacks. Tippi Hedren was bloodied by the birds and spent a week in the hospital recovering. The birds were as vicious on screen as off. But Hitchcock couldn't even get the fowls to stay still on a rooftop during scenes. So they devised a solution. Actor Rod Taylor revealed the untold story to Hello magazine. He said the animal trainers devised a new technique for dealing with those unruly birds. The only reason those birds stayed still was because they were drunk, Taylor said. Apparently, the birds were given feed drenched in alcohol. They tied the drunken birds to the rooftops to keep them in place. But what about the flying attacks? For those, Hitchcock turned to an animator, Ub Iwerks, who was nominated for an Oscar for his flying birds. Iwerks had a talent for animating animals. He was also the man who, in the 1920s, took a rough sketch given to him by his employer, one Walter Disney, and transformed that sketch into Mickey Mouse. And that's how it ends. Now we go back to Academy Award-winning director Mel Gibson, who just completed his own new thriller. And it's escapism, entertainment, just when we need it most. This is also the final interview recorded at Mel's Malibu home before it burned down in those Los Angeles fires. We talked about his directorial approach, the sequel to The Passion of the Christ, and his new film, Flight Risk, a taut thriller about a government witness being flown out of Alaska to stand trial when really bad things begin to happen. It stars Mark Wahlberg in a frightening performance and is directed by Mr. Gibson. Buckle your seatbelts. Here's a glimpse of Flight Risk.
Deputy Harris? Darrell Booth. Hope you like flying. I never flew a fugitive before.
Government witness, not a fugitive.
Ready to go?
Is it always this bumpy?
You get used to it. Moretti's very disappointed in you, and he wants you dead.
Oh, shit.
Y'all need a pilot?
Flight Risk.
You think of Flight Risk as a buddy movie.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, you got a couple of characters who aren't necessarily. It's like war. You put people together in a trench somewhere in some war, and they don't come from the same background. They don't even like one another. They just as soon punch each other in the face. But you put them in an adverse situation, and they form a bond and they form a love for one another. Almost better, more love for the guy they don't like than for themselves because of the adversity. And this is the situation here. And it's
The Lethal Weapon vibe.
Yeah. John Lovitz used to have a routine on Saturday Night Live. I love John, and
He's hilarious.
And he said, like he was being a film producer. He says, "You meet Cochise, you don't like him, you hate each other, but by the end of the movie, you're friends." He used to do that routine.
That's what happens here. You're friends.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of, and there's some challenges for these two, and they have to work together. It's just,
one's a federal agent, the other is a witness in
he's a criminal
testifying against some bad characters.
Yeah, and the other guy's a psycho, psychopath.
As played by Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, you're trapped with a psycho in a wooden box, in a flying death trap.
Why cast Wahlberg in that character? Because we're really unaccustomed to seeing him there. He's usually leading.
No, you don't see him like that, and he's got that in him. Mark's got the madman in him, which is like, why he's done so well. I mean, there's a kind of a maverick, a kind of a wild side to Mark, and it's a dark edge to him, and which he is aware of, and which he kind of like tries to discourage. I think he throws a few shovelfuls of dirt on that demon every day, but it's he can draw from it in his work.
He gets to take a walk
Well, that's right, and that's therapeutic.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah,
for an actor or for anyone really.
Yeah, he looks very different in this movie too. I don't know if we should. Well, we can talk about it. We've seen it in the trailer.
Sure.
Something's missing up top on Mark.
Yeah, he looks like Dennis Rader. He's got this nude nut, this bald head with like scraggly hair on it, like that BTK guy used to have, which is really kind of scary. And Mark is frightening. He looks kind of terrifying.
No, he looks like an out of control little monster on this as this movie evolves. I won't give it away, but wow, he really goes there and beyond.
Yeah, he does.
Whose idea was the bald head?
It was his. He came to me and he said, "Hey man, I had an idea that I should I'm wearing a rug and a hat, but then it gets knocked off and I'm bald." And I'm like, "Whoa." I said, "I think that's great, but give me 24 hours to sleep on it. I don't know. I mean, this is a decision you make. You can't undo it if you start filming it."
Yeah.
So, but I woke up the next day and I thought, that's kind of a genius idea.
Why was it a genius idea?
It just symbolically,
Yeah.
and in many other ways, it just like resets Mark and resets the character, and it's just bizarre.
It's another layer of fraud.
Yes.
Which I thought,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
not even the hair's real.
Yeah, toupee fraud.
Right.
You know? I mean, is yours real?
Yes, mine's real for now.
Some of mine are.
Yeah, well,
You
this
know,
is,
you know.
this is, believe me, there's less to be real about, but it's yeah, what's there.
Are you
is
forming the
definitely
monkey butt? I am. I'm getting the old.
Yeah,
Where's
well,
that camera? Here you go.
Well,
Yeah, monkey
you
butt.
notice I never let them shoot me from there. Only there,
I
Mel.
see.
Be good. Good, Mel. Good, Mel. How does the actor in you, how does that change the way you direct other actors? You were telling me about your direction to Michelle in this movie.
Oh yeah, or Michelle or Mark or anybody.
Yeah.
I think I understand the actor's dilemma on film, and you know, it's hard to just like turn up and do stuff out of order, and it's hard to be totally self-aware all the time about how to gauge a performance. So I think it's helpful for someone who's been there to actually help you and be a completely objective pair of eyes to kind of help on the way. So, you know, I have a lot of empathy for actors and directors now.
Yeah.
And I think having you know, shouldered those responsibilities and used those tools, I'm able better to instruct those who will have to do it.
Tell me about, at one moment, you had a particular instruction to Michelle in this movie.
Oh yeah, it's her best moment.
Tell me about that.
Well, she said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Hey, Michelle, go Greek here." She says, "What?" I said, "Go Greek." I said, "What, you mean like eat a dolmade?" I said, "No." I said, "Some Kalamata olives?" I said, No. Dispense with all that. I just said, "Go Greek tragedy, go big." And she was like, "Okay." And she did it, and she was fantastic.
And you left that cut in.
Oh yeah, she's great. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that sensitivity. Look, I've been on a lot of sets. Most directors are asking these actors for a result. Give me this. Give me that. You work in a different way because you are working through an actor's instrument and kind of find a different way in.
Yeah. And I think you can't. Yeah, you know, you can't give them line readings and all this.
No.
You gotta use their essence, and that's why you hired them after all, because you trust them, and I trust it. And these are three very talented people. I mean, let's not goof around here.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been doing what they've been doing for a long time, and it's like with Andrew Garfield or any of these guys. You know, you just say action and cut. That's great. You are really, you know, and you let them do it. And if they ask for help, you give it. And if they don't, if it's not broken, you don't fix it.
You get out of the way.
That's absolutely right.
What are the obstacles and advantages of working in a tight space like this? This is a confined Cessna aircraft. I don't know why you didn't shoot on a big Boeing, but you can tell me why. I mean, I would have shot on the Boeing double wide.
Well, it's kind of like, it's more immediate. It's more claustrophobic. Not that I think claustrophobia is a great thing for an audience, but it does have moments that really open it up. So you're not, I don't think, you're not on the plane very long. It's only 85 minutes. It's a fast, tight thriller. But I think, I don't know, the space just wanted it to be that. And I chose the Cessna 208 because that was big enough to be able to swing a cat or a dead mouse in, but like, and get cameras and stuff in there and do all that, but small enough to be confined and believable as a bush plane in Alaska. And those planes are indeed bush planes that are like a FedEx plane, you know.
Yeah.
A Cessna 208, you know, with the T-cross wings.
And you're shot in an actual Cessna or the remnant of one.
We shot on the remnants of a real Cessna, yeah. So you know,
Slightly adjusted.
Well, yeah, you had 4.5 feet high by 5 feet 7 wide with chairs and people and camera guys, and so you're in there pretty tight. But
I was fascinated by the volume wall you used in this, which is kind of new technology. You shot all of this in a warehouse.
Most of it in a warehouse, some of it out on real locations, like I had an airstrip and
for the open and close of the movie. But the heart of the movie, you're really shooting in a one room. But it looks like you're flying over Alaska.
Oh my God, yeah. You think you're over the vastness of the Alaskan Alps and this tundra of wilderness that's kind of scary and intimidating. And you see it on film, and you don't need to do rotoscoping or green or blue screen, any of that stuff. It's real looking.
And that had to be all shot beforehand?
I shot the plates beforehand. I got in a helicopter with a camera that looks like a COVID virus. It has like a 360 degree like thing sticking out all around it.
This is the old Disney magic carpet routine.
Is it?
Disney used to do a ride called, in the 60s, Walt Disney devised that technology
Oh, no kidding.
where it hung from the bottom of a helicopter. It had multiple cameras, and it was played
All around you.
in the round.
Oh,
People
okay.
come in, and it gave you the feeling that you were flying over things.
Okay.
That's really what your volume wall is.
That's it. I think technologically it's quite advanced now.
yeah.
I mean, the image is like, wow.
Unbelievable.
I mean, it's photoreal. And you put it up there and it moves, and the actors were getting like, oh, give me a bucket. You know? but
So you had to shoot all the drops and the nosedives and all that on that helicopter before you ever got to principal
we
photography.
got all that stuff, and not all. Some of them a few other tricks you can do. I know, and, you know, I won't tell you. I'm like Colonel Sanders. I'm
Okay.
keeping the recipe in my breast pocket.
I don't blame you.
But you know, he's dead now, so.
Yeah, well, I won't pry any of them out of the bucket.
Yeah, I work for the colonel. I served under the
Oh,
colonel.
really?
Oh, yeah.
Really? Many times.
Oh yeah, or at the old KFC. I'm a veteran. Yeah, I got wounds. I got a Purple Heart. You know.
I think that's your cardiologist.
Yeah.
What, tell me about the casting here. Why these three principal actors? You have lots of other actors. Why these three actors?
They're wonderful, and that's all there is to it. They're just incredibly accomplished, talented performers, and they kind of fit the archetype of what we needed to achieve here. Now, you know, and sometimes you'll pluck somebody like Mark, who you don't usually associate with this kind of
Right.
role, but man, he was able to just deliver.
Incredible.
Michelle, of course, is like the queen of subtlety,
Yeah.
and can convey so much with just the movement of the eye. I was just kind of blown away. And Topher has this insane timing.
He's really funny in that
Yeah,
movie.
he's funny. You know, and they're all funny.
Yeah,
they all
they're
have their
great.
little weird, little humorous moments. So, and they understand that, all of them. So they kind of they were able to work that timing amongst themselves most of the time.
And you even cast your Vegas driver in one role, which I don't know if you can tell people about the role, but this is pretty incredible. You know that the
Yeah.
driver ended up making it into the final cut.
He was amazing. This guy from Bulgaria, who used to drove my car, and I said, "Dude, you ever been on film?" And he went, "No, sir." I'm like, "What? Where are you from?" "I'm from Bulgaria, from Sofia." You know, and I'm like, "Okay." Hey, you want to be in? And he said, "Oh yeah, I do." You know, and he looked great. He's got this amazing kind of presence. So I thought, I'm going to use that.
And it
guy.
worked.
Oh yeah, it works. You know exactly who he is as soon as you see him. In fact, you know, the first time I saw him, I said, I don't know if I want to drive with this guy. But he's the nicest guy on earth, you know.
Yeah,
but he
yeah.
looks tough.
Wow.
He looks tough.
Tell me about Stephen Rosenblum, who you've worked with before.
Sure.
In Braveheart.
In Braveheart, he was my editor, and he's the editor on this too. And he does not mess around. He is a very experienced editor, and he knows how to make a good piece of entertainment and how to slice and dice it just the way we all want it. You know, so it's a treat to work with Steve.
Do you just hand him the script and your cut, or do you give him notes? Let's watch it, or he does a cut.
I give it to him, and I say, "Here, what can you make out of this? You know,
Go.
Can you make a silk purse out of this sow's ear here? Help me out here, buddy." And he goes away, and I leave him to his own devices, and he invariably comes up with something great and a lot of stuff I didn't even expect. And I thought, wow, I didn't even know I shot that. You know, and he's using things that I'm like, whoa. So, and then we get together and really kind of work as a team and like, chip away like the old Michelangelo kind of film edit.
Did you cut this movie down in the edit? Or no? It's pretty much as you shot it.
Not much. We were trying to like, geez, we need more time in this. This is so fast. We actually did cut it down, yes, because whenever it looked like it was like not moving, or if there wasn't a beat that was furthering action, plot, or wasn't just a laugh in some sense, or interesting in some respect, we would deviate from it and try and exclude it, so that what we had was kind of that you never get a chance to get let down. You're just kind of like watching the whole time.
There's something I see in all your films, and whether it's, look, and some of these things are frankly challenges that no other director would undertake or has undertaken. When you look at Apocalypto, when you look at The Passion of the Christ, when you look at this project, you direct from the audience point of view, you told me.
Yeah, that's an essential part. I am an audience member first when I'm directing. And what do I want to see when I'm sitting in a dark room, public, dreaming with like 400 other people or whatever it happens to be, even 2 other people? What do I want? and you have to cater to the need of the man in the dark room watching your dream, you know, and having a dream with everybody else, and who can you drag in, who can you affect. And
There are a lot of directors who say, no. I write for me, I direct for me. I direct for my vision.
yeah, well, that's partially true, I guess, because, I mean, look, it's undeniable. If whoever directs a film, they leave their mark on
Yeah,
it.
of course.
So they are there, and their sensibilities are there. So in a sense, that's true, but you cannot exclude. If you're a chef and you're cooking a great meal, you don't just eat it yourself and say 5 stars. You gotta share it with a bunch of hungry people who can then give you feedback on it. You feed them, they feed back. If they feed back, you're in trouble. Yeah, but it's a bit like any art. It is to be shared, and it is to be.
But it's meant to be consumed by others. It's not your little pet project. That's why I think so many of these things are inaccessible.
Well, a lot of them are. I mean, if you make a film for an elite, you know, it needs to work for as broad an audience as possible. So.
Tell me about you related the story of Braveheart, which I had not heard. How you came to that project.
Oh yeah.
Tell me about that. How? Because this was not. You had read the script earlier and
Yes.
passed on it, acting in it.
Yes, but I liked it, and it was an acting offer, and I thought, oh wow, you know, I read it, and I was busy doing a bunch of stuff, and you know, I was in my mid-30s, and I was seriously busy at that time.
Yeah.
It was like I couldn't, you know,
Yeah.
you know, I was turning things down and giving other people shots.
Yep.
You know? And I sort of just I read it, I liked it, but I thought, no, not for me. I don't think I can pull off the man in a kilt, you know, thing. And then I sort of walked away and did a bunch of other stuff. And somebody said, well, what you know, what do you want to do next? I said, I don't know, man. I read this thing a couple of years back. I thought it's pretty good, and it has some really big themes. And he said, oh, really? What was it? So I told him the story, and but when I told him the story, I was saying, and then you got this low angle here with a guy doing the, you know, and it was like I was almost like a shooting script.
You were dreaming it in your head.
And I realized that I had been thinking about this, like in my wee hours, you know, before you go to sleep at night. How would I film that with that, you know, low angle on the horse hoofs with the, you know, and all this kind of stuff. And I was constructing images in my head that sort of like excited me. And I said to the guy, said, that sounds amazing. And then we got the script, and it was Randy's script, and it was still as good as it was. Yeah. And I thought, wow, I think I need to direct this because I just want to shepherd what we see and how we see it in up here, you know, what I'd constructed over the time. And then I said, and I had directed a small film, so I put my toe in the water. And so I thought, let's try it on a bigger scale here. And I said to Alan Ladd Jr., God rest his soul, he's gone now, but he was a good dude.
Yeah.
You could never understand what he said. He mumbled.
Oh.
And so it was like, you know, you go, what? What? And he always had said something smart. He was a smart guy.
Yeah.
He just had this kind of mumbling thing. And so I used to have a gag. I used to say, well, you know, Alan Ladd Jr. told me one time.
What?
Yeah. So, and I even told Laddie that joke. So,
okay.
You know,
so you cleared it with him. That's
yeah, he was a sweet old guy. He's gone now. He's gone to Gowings.
God bless him. But he was at MGM at the time.
He was at MGM, and I think he got the golden handshake over there. They get, which means like, get out of here, buddy. And he said, okay, I'm leaving, but I'm taking 2 scripts with me. And he took 2 scripts from MGM UA. He took the Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
And Braveheart. He only wanted B titles.
Well, yeah, that must have been at the top of the just the B's. He ran out.
Movies,
he didn't get to C or D.
So when I reconnected with the project, when I realized I wanted to direct it, I found out that it was at a different studio. Oh. It had gone from MGM to Paramount.
He moved to Paramount.
He moved to Paramount, and so I said, Laddie, you know, I've only done this once before, but I want to direct it. And he said, I don't want to. And I said, great.
We got a deal.
Right. Yeah. So. It was fantastic, and one of the best. Hard. Oof, so hard. 7 days a week sometimes.
What was the pre-production on that? Pretty brief, right?
Snappy. It was like, as soon as I said, "Can I direct?" He said, "I don't have a problem with that." I said, "Great, let's go." 10 weeks of pre-production on this is lightning for any film, but on that, oh my goodness,
it's an epic. I mean, with all the people you have to move. My gosh, that's incredible.
Well, I was fortunate, and I had a really good production team. And we were able to go over and find what we needed in Europe. Ireland was very helpful with not only tax credits, but their resources.
Yeah.
And they bent over backwards and forward. No,
forward the time.
But to and extended a hand. And we were able to shoot it in Scotland, and Ireland. And the UK really put out for us.
But I was surprised. I guess I'd forgotten. It didn't pop at the box office when it first emerged.
It wasn't a huge box office on the screen. It wasn't.
Yeah.
On the big screen, I think it made like 75 million or something, which was moderately okay.
Yeah.
But where it really did good was on VHS. It went crazy on that.
Won a bunch of Academy Awards.
Yeah.
too.
After it won all these Academy Awards, and then went big on VHS. It was like,
Wow.
So hey, it came in. It slid into home plate eventually.
It holds up. It's still a classic.
Yeah, it holds up. Yeah,
It's incredible.
It inspired a lot of other films because the battle epic had been by and large abandoned. With Charlton Heston. El Cid or Spartacus, or back in the 50s, and then we kind of resurrected the
Genre.
big genre battle epic with that film, and then of course Ridley and Tony saw it. Ridley and Tony Scott saw it, and they were like, "Whoa, nobody does!" And it was like, "Oh, I'm glad." And I was flattered. They called me about it. They were like, "Wow!" And then it spawned things like Troy and Gladiator.
Yeah, there was
and
a
all
whole series of those.
Good, and some good films. And so it kind of brought those things back. Now I think you got to cool it on those things now, but. Maybe there's another.
There's one or two left.
There's a couple of big stories out there that would really resonate.
Tell me about the viral. You've released these little viral moments around flight risk. That kind of tie. One of them ties to Braveheart.
Yeah.
What were you trying to do with these?
Well, look, it was so much fun to work on.
Yeah.
It was fun to shoot with these actors and stuff, and I just felt like what we got was a little odd and a little quirky and off to the side a little bit, but still fast and entertaining. And I thought, hey, let's just keep the spirit of this thing going. And I just wanted to kind of goof on it.
Yeah.
And, and let the audience know that, hey, don't take this too seriously. This is just a nice thrill ride, a fast piece of entertainment.
It's a lot of fun. It's
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And you are on the edge of your seat and going, oh my, I mean, you don't hear people gasp this way in a theater
that's good.
very often.
No.
Tell me about The Resurrection before we run out of time.
Oh, sure.
Obviously, one of the great masterworks of your life
Yeah, sure.
and career. People have been waiting for this movie for a long time.
Yeah, like 20 years or so. It'll be even longer by the time it actually makes it. And I'm not sure when that is. I know my focus now is on that. I'm in a pre-production mode. It's complex, and it took a long time. It's like labor pains. It's like giving birth to this creation that's got to be all working parts, and it's been a long labor.
And you told me last time we talked, this isn't just Jesus Rises, Acts of the Apostles. It's much more complex than that.
Well, yes, because you have to ask the essential question of, in our existence, why are the big realms of good and evil, and they exist, they're as real as we are. Why are these realms slugging it out for the souls, the hearts and souls of mankind? Why are we the meat in that sandwich? Little old us, flawed us, imperfect us. Why is that about us? And I'm trying to answer that question. I don't know if I can. I've attempted, and maybe with God's help and with image and with sound and music, we can deliver on some answers to some of those massive questions these existential questions.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see it.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. In the meantime, we'll go to Flight Risk.
Yeah, why not? Let's go to Flight Risk. Have fun.
Book me passage.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you don't want to be going down on that.
Not that one. No, I'd like to. I'll be in the freight downstairs.
Yeah, okay.
I'd rather not be with Wahlberg and company.
Right. Yeah,
No,
I too am afraid.
Yeah. Okay, here's the takeaway. Whatever you do, do it for others. Whether you're an artist or a teacher or a mechanic or a stay-at-home parent, the thing that struck me about that conversation was your gifts are for others. They should be our focus. In Mel's case, the audience is always front and center. And Mel reminds me every time I see him, keep the humor in the forefront. I would argue it's one of his superpowers, on screen or otherwise. He uses comedy to drive the drama and the thrills. Alfred Hitchcock once said, "Suspense doesn't have any value if it's not balanced by humor. Neither does life." I hope you enjoyed the show. Come back next time, and as I'm going to recall on every episode, why live a dry, narrow, constricted life when if you fill it with good things, it can flow into a broad, thriving Arroyo Grande. I'm Raymond Arroyo. Make sure you subscribe and like this episode. Thanks for diving in, and we'll see you next time. Arroyo Grande is produced in partnership with iHeart Podcasts and is available on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.